All right. There we
Okay,
go.
welcome back to Geekfecta, the podcast that brings you a few geeks' opinions on the world. We are breaking down all of Geekdom one podcast at a time. Tonight we are talking about what to do when the world goes wrong, whether you become a postman, a wandering desert samurai of God, or fighting over gas on land or sea. That's right, we're talking post-apocalyptic. Our categories, as always, are TV and movie, books and comics, video games and board games. With me, as usual, are the Road Warriors, Morph, a.k.a. Hawk, and Kip, a.k.a. the Animal. Even though he's not here, I couldn't not use that. How are you doing tonight, Morph?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm a little bummed that it's just the two of us, but you know what? The show must go on, and we're going to have a good time with this one.
Yep. I'm kind of disappointed Kip's not here because I know his wife's into big wrestling. I thought that Hawk and Animal Road Warrior
Oh, yeah.
was great, but you'll have to hear it in post.
Yeah, he'll hear it when he goes and edits this. I know that he is actually working on the iTunes feed and getting all these episodes. This is episode number 5.
Yep.
And so he's working on getting all these episodes up onto iTunes. So if you guys are listening to this and you didn't download this off of iTunes and you're catching us on YouTube, then you can go check us out on iTunes here shortly because it's going to be there soon.
That's awesome.
I'm going to say that, and then it's going to take him like a month to get
Right, right. Oh, I didn't get to it. What do you think about post-apocalyptic? What's your rundown on what it is?
Well, usually I'm going to say post-apocalyptic needs to be a catastrophe that happens that causes the end of society as we know it. Not necessarily the end of the world, but the end of what we know. So it can't, your movies or your movies or comics or board games, they can't kind of just be this is futuristic world we live in. There's got to be a catastrophe that happens that causes a drastic change, or even a subtle change, but a catastrophe that happens that sets up the settings
Right.
for the material.
I also would go with it has to be enough time has had to pass that you're not still trying to save the society that you were, but if you become the society you are.
True.
Like, it's not like it just happened yesterday and this is the fallout of it. This has been going on for a little bit, and this is kind of where we're at, in my opinion. I mean, even if it's just a year, it can't be during the downfall. It has to be like, here we are.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, which might be a little stretch for my comic book. I know you already know which one it is.
I'm sure.
But that kind of stretches out over long period of time, and it's not really necessarily, the comic book itself isn't necessarily about catchy, like returning to the status quo, because there pretty much is no status quo to return to. So,
which will bring us to our first topic. We decided we're going to start with the books and comics. I'm going to say it because I assume that you hit it too. When I put it down, I was like, oh, well, someone else will have either John or John will have something else for us to talk about, but it's probably going to end up. I put down Why the Last Man.
Yes, me too.
Hey, there it was.
Too. And I mean, this series is just flat out awesome. I guess for those of you that don't know, it is a story about what happens when there is no more humans on Earth, or no more males.
No more males.
I should rephrase that right. It is written by Brian K. Vaughan. It is. I'm trying to pull up exactly how many issues it is. I want to say that it's 10 or 12 trade paperbacks, so it's a crap ton of issues.
It is a lot, and I caught them in trade. Like I read them in trade because I knew I had some friends that were reading it. They said it was great, but I was so far behind.
Yep, that's exactly what I did too.
I just had to do it that way.
Yeah, it runs about 60 issues. It runs from September 2002 to March of 2008.
And not all the men are eliminated.
Yeah, I guess, what is it, all but 2?
Yep, a monkey and why.
Yeah, and so it centers around Yorick Brown, which they,
Mm-hmm.
which is pretty much where the Y comes from.
Right. Well,
But
it's also the Y chromosome thing, like
yeah,
kind of tie it into that. But
yeah.
yes, I mean that's what it is.
So, but it basically happens just at the spur of a moment, just instantly. All the males just die. So it's not a prolonged death. It's not a, hey, we have time to prepare for this. It's just a flat out gone. And planes crash because they have male pilots on them. Power plants and infrastructures fail because males were in charge of them and they just died during doing their job. Um, and even so much so that this they find out this is just contained to Earth because there's astronauts that are still alive, and there's a male astronaut and a female astronaut, and but when they come back down to Earth, he ends up not making it.
Right.
So it's awesome. It's a great story. Brian K. Vaughan just tells this story that's just incredible.
Right.
I'm not a huge fan of the ending. Um,
But it is nice that it has, some of the best comic storylines I've read have that this is a full story. We're not, it's not, we don't know where it's going. We're gonna start here and kind of just keep going, and meh. It's a contained story. You got the beginning, you got the middle, you got the end, and it rises and falls, kind of like that. And
right, right, and I mean it's as far as, and this is where it's kind of a stretch. It's not so much them dealing with the time gone through. This beginning of this book starts where all the males are alive.
right,
But I want to say it's within the first issue. I know it's within the first trade. They're all dead.
Yep.
It's very early on, and then it's how do you survive from this? What do you do? You have York trying to figure out. He doesn't understand what's going on. He doesn't understand why he's still alive, and none of the other males are. But then you also have different factions fighting for this single man because the women know they have to reproduce some way.
well, and everything from we're glad all the men are gone, we hated them, to oh my god, a man, let's get him.
Yep.
You know.
Yep. You've got the Amazons that end up like cutting off a breast because they want to. I'm not really sure what the meaning
Right.
of that was, but and they're trying to kill Yorick and
Right.
Ampersand, which I have to say is the best name for Kabuki.
A monkey.
Yeah. Um, so they're trying to kill Yorick and Ampersand, and they're at any means necessary. And then you have like a secret group, a secret organization that just happened to have a female in the ranks of it. What was it? The Culper Ring, that has Agent 355. She has no name other than Agent 355 through the entire series, and she's trying to save Yorick and get him. Basically, at first it's get him somewhere safe and save him. Then it comes into trying to, they end up hooking up with a doctor to try to figure out why he's the last one.
Yep.
And what makes him so special. And of course, we're not going to spoil the end for this thing. You need to go read it.
It's very well written. It's very good. Like I said, it's a contained story, so that's really nice. You're not on the hook forever. But yeah, the characters are great. The everyone has motivation of like why they're doing stuff. So yeah, I can't recommend it more highly.
Yeah, this is awesome, and this soon could be, since we are talking about this, and it is just the two of us here, we can kind of go on this little tangent here. This series has actually been picked up for film. The film rights to the series were acquired by New Line Cinema, and that was back in 2007. So this,
I honestly think it would do better as like a mini series or a show.
yeah, yeah.
You know, 'cause,
And
I mean, it's very episodic.
originally this was going like they wanted this to be a movie, but as like a more recently, it's gone back and forth between whether it's gonna end up putting this on TV or putting this in on the film. Um, the
I just think you'd have to cut out so much for a film.
Yeah,
Whereas, you know, if you do it an episodic, and if you did it on something like Stars, HBO, something like that, where you could actually have it however you want.
right. And
Could be
yeah,
really,
so it's bounced around between different writers, different things. Even the most recent news was um, that Dan Trachtenberg was going to direct the film, um, and produced by David Goyer, which, Dan Trachtenberg, for those of you that don't know, has done he did a short film on YouTube. I don't think this would have been his directorial debut, but he did a short film about the Portal series, about the Portal video game, and it was awesome. Like, it was incredible the way he directed that thing. So he's at least got the chops to direct something, and David Goyer is no stranger for this. But from since then, there's been talks of, well, maybe it's not going to happen, and New Line Cinema might have lost their chance, and the rights might be reverting back. But I don't know. I'm still hopeful that Brian K. Vaughan can get worked out with somebody to get this thing turned into something on TV, because it's worth it. This thing's that good. It could make Walking Dead look like junk.
right. I agree. I agree. Especially if it's done right.
Mm-hmm.
So for worst book or comic, and this is where you're gonna jump down my throat, I have a feeling, because for me, so everybody loves this comic. Everyone's like, no, it's so phenomenal and it's amazing, and I read it, and I was like, and it's on my worst not because I think it's just awful. It just wasn't for me. It wasn't great. I was like, meh. It is what it is. That's V for Vendetta. I don't understand the over-the-top love for it.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, guys, there's better written stuff out there.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I get it, and I found that there are way more non-comic readers that have read that, like, because it's a graphic novel, not a comic,
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like been risen to an art type book.
Yeah.
And there's better books out there.
And you know what? I'll actually agree with you on this one. I didn't have a worst written down for a comic, because I just couldn't. I went through all my lists of comics that I've got digital copies of, and I went through my long boxes of comics trying to find something to fit this category, and I just couldn't find one that I wanted to put in this spot. But now that you bring this up, I can agree with you there, because it's an Alan Moore comic is what it is. It takes a special person to be able to dissect all of this and put it back together in your head. And I'm not one of the there's not a lot of Alan Moore books that I just have to keep reading over and over again. And I didn't read this comic until after I had seen the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Mainly just because at the time I didn't even know it was a comic book until the movie came out.
And for me, it's fine. I really am not saying, like, because anyone who's listened to any episode before this, if I will just flame the crap out of it. Like, I'll just go on a rant that's unstoppable. But This one, I mean, I like you said, I looked through all my stuff and I was like, God. And I know I fall sometimes on the worst always kind of hits comics, because for a long time I read a lot of comics. Like if it came out, I just kind of read it, you know. And because they're short, you read them. You read through it, you get done. For most books, if I get a chapter in or 2 chapters in and it sucks, I don't finish the book.
Yeah.
You know, I'm done. Or there are some where I push through and go, well, maybe it gets better, and if it doesn't, it doesn't. But for me, so I want my comics to have good stories, to have good merger between the images and the story, and I don't read my comics for higher literary critique, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, I have an English degree. I've read Shakespeare. I've read Graham Greene. I've read these guys that, like, you know, Hemingway and stuff, who think that their allegory and stuff is so amazing, and you really have to break down to the depths of it. I'm not looking for that in comics.
Yeah. Hell, I'm not looking for that in novels. So, I mean, yeah, and along the same sense, I mean, this isn't a post-apocalyptic comic book, but Watchmen, I never read this. I didn't read it when it was, you know, when it was a big hit, like when it came out. I didn't read it. I wasn't interested in that stuff at that time. But then as I became a comic book fan and started reading more stuff, I kept getting told, you need to read Watchmen, you need to read Watchmen. And I read Watchmen, and much like V for Vendetta, I read it and it's just like, nah.
You know,
I don't like.
I wasn't so flamed, because I feel the same way.
Yeah, I mean, I just didn't have the. Oh, that was amazing! The way it was taken apart. Now I've gotten a little bit more of appreciation for it, as there's another podcast that I'm a big fan of. That's the Major Spoilers podcast, and they have they've got connections with. And I wish I could remember his name, with a guy that's in academia, and he has gone and literally taken Watchmen apart panel by panel, and kind of went back and even explained why the layout, the page layout, makes you feel a certain way. And after listening to him break this entire comic book down, I went back and reread it, and I picked more of that stuff up because someone told me about it. But so I think V for Vendetta could fit in that same line, that Alan Moore is really just smarter than the rest of us, or at least smarter than me, and I just don't get it. So maybe V for Vendetta is, you know, a lot better than what I take it for, but unless someone goes and breaks it down panel by panel and explains to me why I need to feel the way I should feel, you know, the way he wants me to feel, there's no way for me to pick it up. So I would agree with you. That's got to go. That's got to go on that list.
And so for me, you know, you got into the Watchmen and stuff, and I read the Watchmen. I didn't read it right when it came out. I read it later, much like you. People were like, oh, you should read this, you should read this. And reading it, and again, like, if I wanted to go the literary route and try to break down, oh, because he said something like this, and this is from this book, and this is, you know, I could do that, but I was doing that in college. You know, like, I was being told, like, hey, you got to look at this book and take Heart of Darkness and break it down to its essence and why it's you know, showing the destruction of Africa and how it relates to the guy turning dark with the whole darkness of the river, and, you know, I mean, all that stuff. If I wanted to break it down, I could. I want something that gives me emotion, that gives me... I'm actually looking more for, in my comics, and it sounds weird, more of a human story than a global public service announcement.
Mm-hmm.
Who's watching The Watchmen? Ooh, or the V for Vendetta. I want, like, have you ever read Jeff Loeb's Dark Victory, the Batman one?
Yes.
Okay, so it's a study on 2 people that were friends with a guy who went bad, right? Mm-hmm. You got Two-Face, who was at one point Harvey Dent, and Commissioner Gordon and Batman, and they were all friends, and they were all trying to do the right thing. And you have Batman who's just like he's bad, it's done, it's over. And you have Gordon who's this was my friend, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw Jeff Loeb speak once, and he's talking about his book, you know, and I've read it, and he goes, you know, sometimes I feel kind of cheap because there's times where I won't put words on the page, and the images are just giving you what I want you to feel about this person, and it's more of a character study than it is the PSA. So, like he describes in that book, there's a thing where he gets the phone call, and he's like, "No, honey, yeah, I won't be home. I'm gonna be running late." Then he hangs it up, and the next thing is he kind of looks tired, and he picks up his mug, and it says like "World's Greatest Dad," you know, and you're like, okay, his life is he's not home as much as he wants. He's got a family. He's got the World's Greatest Dad mug because you know he's a good guy, but he's also got this heavy burden he's carrying, and or even with the Superman for All Seasons, and I know it's another Jeff Loeb, but I think he's a great writer. In the first one, Clark Kent and his dad are kind of, hey, I'm going to the city, maybe you shouldn't do that, maybe blah, blah, blah. And you get to the middle of the book, and it's those two just standing at a fence, watching a sunset, everything's been said that could be said, and you're like, oh,
yeah,
just together, you know?
Yeah.
And it's that character study that I almost look for more than the big overarching government is evil, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I just, like I said, they're not bad. It's not a bad book. It's not for me.
Yeah. And that's fair. I mean, you know, mileage may vary. So.
Right. Right. So after we've wrapped up the agreement on all the book side of it, let's head over to games. For mine, now I know we kind of talked about, you said you want clear cut, it's post-apocalyptic.
Right.
So the game I have is not first, I mean, the feel of it is, okay? You have a sense that this is after some major stuff has happened. It's a dystopian future. It's almost like Hunger Game-esque where there's a government, but it's not a great government.
Mm-hmm.
And really when I was looking through the post-apocalyptic stuff, I mean, any of the zombie things could have worked. But for me, I went with a game by Indie Boards and Cards called The Resistance. And The Resistance is a social traitor game that takes place in the future world. Like I said, I can't say for sure it's post-apocalyptic, but it has that feel, like the artwork of it and all that's going on. And what it is your group is playing as the rebels. They're trying to overthrow the government, right?
Mm-hmm.
And within that are spies. So it's kind of like the game Werewolf, where you know everyone gets out a thing. You look at it, someone's a werewolf. In this case, some people are rebels and some people are spies. Everyone closes their eyes. The spies get to open theirs, and there's usually two. They get to look around and go, okay, you're the other spy. Then they close their eyes, everyone opens them. Then, depending on how many people you have, there's a mission track. And it'll say, like, on the first mission, 2 people have to go on it. On the second mission, 3 people have to go on it. And whoever's turn it is, you look at how many people go on the mission, whoever's turn it is gets to choose the people that go on the mission. Then everyone votes yes or no, like, yeah, we want that, or no, we don't want that. If the majority says yes, we want it, those people then get cards that say pass and fail. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
If there's one fail, and they're put in secretly, like so let's say there's 3 people on it, each one of them choose either pass or fail, put it in the middle, you shuffle them up so no one knows, and then you reveal them. If there's one fail, the mission fails. Unless some of the missions say there has to be 2 fails, but if one mission fails, the thing fails. There's 5 total missions. If more than half, so the majority are fails, the spies win. If the majority are successes, the rebels win. And so, whereas werewolf is, you basically kind of go, are you the werewolf? And someone goes, no, I'm not the werewolf. Are you the werewolf? No, I'm not the werewolf. I guess we vote Tim off. And then everyone closes their eyes and someone gets eaten or doesn't, right?
Right.
But you're just kind of going off how people are looking. This one, you can at least get information, right? Like, okay, so there are 3 people on it, and it failed. That means one of you is a spy, you know?
Right.
And so then you're like, okay, well, I'm going to take these people on this mission instead because I think you're the spy and you're not, so I'm going to take you guys. And then, you know, you get 3 successes, and you're like, oh, great, that's the right ones. Well, if one of the spies was like, well, I'm going to put a success this time, even though I put a fail last time, then I can go, yep, see, I told you that's the guy that was the spy. We should make sure we stay together and all of a sudden they're wrecking you from the inside. It's really good. It's a really social game. Um, I I like it. It's fun.
It's actually kind of funny that you bring this up because that is, and it's a bummer that Kip's not here to join in this conversation because him and I have played that game with our gaming group, and it was actually a lot of fun. Now, I mean, and I want to say that's the one that can be played with like up to
10 people.
Yeah, 10 people, and
it's 5 to 10.
Yeah, we had the bare minimum. We had 5 people, and that one, it was not quite as fun with 5 people because you still had 2 spies, and so your odds
to win as the rebels.
Yeah, the spies pretty much won every time in that. Even when you knew, like, even when they knew who the bad guy was, like, I was the spy, and they knew it was me from the get-go.
Right.
Mainly because I'm an asshole, and so I make comments, and they're like, oh, so it's definitely you. So they knew it was me, yet the way that who got the pick, the way the leader fell on who was going to get in there, like, one of the 2 spies was always in the group, and they couldn't win. So but I can see that game, extrapolate that out to with 10 people. Oh my God, that would be hilarious, and it would be a ton of fun to play with that many people.
We played just the other day, and we had a 6-person game and then a 7-person game. And the 6-person game, my eldest daughter and my middle daughter got the spy first, right? And it was my eldest daughter's friends, and then like one of my middle daughter's friend, and then my youngest daughter. And so she and my middle daughter got the things, and we had already decided who was going to be the first player, because you decide that it helps to decide that before you reveal who you are. So like before you see who you are. That way you can't be like, well, who wants to go first, and you give someone, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, well, I'll go, you know, to try to help. But my eldest daughter got it first, and she put her and my middle daughter in, and they were both the spies, right?
Uh-huh.
And so they both put success, right? Flip it over, and like, okay, cool. So then it goes to my eldest daughter's friend, and she takes her, my eldest daughter, and their other friend. Is that right? Oh, Bree must not, my youngest daughter must not have played that game. And her other friend, and all of a sudden there's a fail, right? And so the girl that chose that mission was like, well, Alexis passed last time, so it's gotta be her, right? So then she chooses, and we all are like, no, you don't get to choose this mission. And we voted it out, so then it goes to the next person. And so then she's like, well, the first one, and that was my middle daughter's friend, she was like, well, Abby and Alexis won the first time, so I'll take them with me. Well, then all of a sudden that fails, and we're like, well, then she's a spy. And they just routed us, and they flipped it over, and we're like, we're the spies.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, are you serious?
Oh, that is great. I mean, that is what makes that thing so much fun.
Right, and I'm like, okay, wait a minute, who is what? And like the next game, I was trying to convince them, I'm like, oh my God, I'm telling you right now, this kid right here is the spy. I guarantee it. I'm telling you it is. I can guarantee it. And I'm like, I know it's not Bree, and that's when my youngest daughter was playing. And my oldest daughter was like, how do you, and she turned out to be a rebel too, and she's like, how do you know it's not Bree? I said, look at her. She can't lie. She's 7. She's not good at lying. I'm like, Bree, are you a rebel? She's like, is that blue or red? I'm like, it's blue. She's like, yep. I'm like, look at that. She's not lying. My oldest daughter just couldn't get past. She's like, no, I think she's lying. I'm like, she isn't. And she wasn't. She was a rebel. She just, so.
Oh, that's great.
It was brutal. It's a fun game. The more people you get, obviously, the more it kind of interacts. Actually, I kind of feel like 7 and 8 is the sweet spot.
Yep, I can see that.
But yeah, that's mine for best game.
Well, and I'd also put in there that's very similar because, I mean, my experience to board games is pretty slim. I don't have a whole lot in my background, but the first big one that I played with Kip was Battlestar Galactica. Yeah. And after playing Battlestar Galactica and dealing with that, trying to figure out who the bad guy is, like, playing Resistance was just as much fun if not more fun, because that's all it was. It's all centered around the no, you're the toaster. No,
Right.
you're the toaster. And it's like, then you just get into this big, huge fight and you're just yelling at each other. I mean, you could sit there and play nicely and just move about your business, but no, you've got to start yelling at each other. And then all of a sudden you look over and you're like, holy crap, 4 hours has gone by. We've played this game probably 10 times already, and we just want to keep playing. So yeah,
Well,
I agree with you. That
and you
that
get
game is
yes, play with three 15-year-old girls, two 11-year-old girls, and a 7-year-old girl who swear to God their friend can't be the bad guy.
right.
Like,
Yeah,
it's her. No, she wouldn't lie to me. Why wouldn't she? It's me.
yeah. It's
I don't know who
that's
she
what it's
liked.
supposed to be. Yeah. Well, so since we agreed on the comic books, and I do agree with you on that board game, I'm gonna have to throw out a video game here because I am the video game of the group.
There you
So
go.
I am gonna go with a game that is a classic in my opinion, although I don't know if you can really call a classic something that's only 7 years old, but Fallout 3.
Okay.
This game is awesome. The storytelling on this game, it's a first-person shooter with kind of a turn-based strategy type shooting element to it if you want to. So like you get in combat with somebody and you can actually hit a button that you know, pauses the screen, pauses the combat. You're still in first person perspective, but it shows you like it basically shows you a grid or a percentage of your probability of actually hitting the guy in that particular area. So you could shoot him in the leg, and it might be you might have a 10% chance based off of how far away and the type of gun you have,
Okay.
or you can shoot him in the midsection, the torso, and it might be a 60% chance, but if you hit him there, you're not going to drop him. So, if you shoot him in the leg and you hit him, he's going to at least be wounded and not be able to make it to you. Um, so it's a crazy concept for combat, and I had a blast going back and forth between just running around shooting like a crazy person, or going back and getting a big high-powered rifle in my arms and just taking these people out. So it's there's the combat for you, but maybe I should tell you all about the game a little bit. So this game takes place in the year 2277.
Okay.
36 years after the setting of the previous game, Fallout 2, but 200 years after the nuclear apocalypse has basically just wiped out the world. You start in a fallout shelter. They call it Vault 101, and this is where up to 1,000 humans are basically kept underground in a fallout shelter with, to protect them from this nuclear fallout. And it's got food down there. It's got all this. Well, the game starts with, a crime or a murder type thing that happens within Vault 101. You kind of get accused of being the person who committed this, and so they kind of kick you out, slash you kind of just, if you stay, you're going to get killed, so you get the hell out. So you end up going above ground to the nuclear wasteland, and you find out that, well, it's not what they told you it was. They told you it was uninhabitable and nothing could survive. Well, that's not true. There's other people that are out there that have kind of built these makeshift towns, very, very Mad Max type thing, like big wall, like not really big cities, like shacks that have been put together, and then they take like these can't tell you engineering wise, I can't tell you how they actually did this, but took like big metal panels and stuck them into the ground to wall their city off because you could have raiders just come in and try to wipe you out for all your supplies. You could there's you can run across existing like cities that were around, and they and so they can, like, you can find these things that are just demoralized cities, and glad that you can make it back there, Bill.
Yeah.
But it's a great game. It's a lot of fun. It's very RPG centric, so you're building up stats. But
So is
it's
the end goal just to survive, to get something, to find something?
they build a mystery into it to kind of get you going and try to figure out maybe what caused the nuclear apocalypse. Why is it going on? But then there's also fighting factions in this that you can join up and try to help out, or go against. You end up with these two warring factions, and this is one of the first games, in my opinion. Maybe it's the first game that I really got into where it felt like decisions that you made, whether you helped somebody or left them to die, affected how the game went on, like how different interactions and how people saw you. So like you could walk into a city and some bum could like come up to you and be like, I need some help. Can you spare me some caps, which is what bottle caps is what they used for currency. And you could be like, no, screw you. I'm not giving you anything. Just push them off to the side and go on about your business. Well, then 5-10 hours later, you can be in that same, come back to that city and need supplies. Well, that bum ended up becoming, was brothers of the guy who runs the market there.
Oh,
so now you can't get jack because you were an ass to him. Well, it didn't affect you until all of a sudden, it came back up. And you might not have ever run into that. It wasn't like the game directed you toward it.
Yeah.
But it was just, hey, it's here.
It's a possibility.
If you experience this, it's going to come back and bite you in your ass. And that happened to me a lot, which because I'm kind of an asshole and just like shooting people. So,
nice.
But it's a lot of fun to play.
The game tells you your moral compass.
Yeah, exactly. And this is a game. It was developed by Bethesda, and for Bethesda's game studios has done a lot of games and a lot of really good games, and this one is definitely at the tops of my list of games they've done.
Nice. Okay, so worst game. So I struggled to find. First of all, I don't play a lot of new school video games. Okay, and so going back to the Sega Genesis, even the N64, there weren't huge amounts of post-apocalyptic stuff that gave you tons of story. I mean, we've talked in the past about adventure and all this stuff. There's not a lot of storylines there.
Right.
So I went with board games, and I looked around. And I was like, God, what is the worst post-apocalyptic game? Now, it's arguable that during this game, it's more apocalyptic than post-apocalyptic, but I'm still going with it. Mine is Munchkin Apocalypse. I am not. First, let me say I'm not a fan of Munchkin. It's a game that a lot of people like, and that's fine. It's your time, your money, you do it, right? However, Munchkin Apocalypse is just like every other Munchkin game. You're trying to get to level 10, except now, and I truly believe Munchkin is, oh, look, I drew all these plus whatever items, so I drop them, and I'm able to kill everything I can. Oh, and you didn't get any, and all your monsters are bigger than you? I guess you don't kill anything.
Right.
So you're racing to level 10 when the game ends, but this also has these seals, like biblical seals that are cracking, and if they all 7 of them crack, or however many there are, the game ends. And whoever's farthest in the lead wins. Woo, you got lucky, you win.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, in looking this up, and I've only played this once, and I actually demoed it for the company because someone was like, "Hey, can you teach me how to play Munchkin Apocalypse?" And I was like, actually demoing for a different company, but I was in the same booth, and I was like, And they actually asked one of the people that worked there, and he was like, "Well, all my guys are busy." And I was like, "I can do it." And like looked through it real quick. Okay, got it. It's Munchkin with a couple of things, right? And it was like every other one. So on Board Game Geek, they actually say in the Munchkin forums, and this kills me. It is said that it's harder than any other Munchkin, and only seasoned Munchkin players should really play it because it's that hard. It's Munchkin.
Yeah, it's not that hard.
Hey, this monster is hard. Help me. Okay, I'll do it for 2 treasures. Okay, oh, we killed it. Now 800 more turns like that.
Yep.
That's
There's no complexity to any Munchkin game. They're very simple games, and I have no problems playing them. Like let's take it back. I've never actually played a game of Munchkin. I've just listened to a podcast of people playing Munchkin, which is actually fairly entertaining to an extent when they're badgering each other and yelling at each other. And, it's supposed to be a family-friendly podcast, and then all of a sudden you have somebody drop F-bombs because they're like, you can't, what? No, this is, but you can tell, it's just luck of the cards. It's like it's like playing blackjack or poker with somebody.
Right.
That's really all it is, and so I can understand your pain there.
Well, and that's the closest I could come to post-apocalyptic in a game that I didn't like. And it's apocalyptic, so I apologize for that, but
it's close enough.
Yep.
Close enough. Yeah, because honestly, I was stretching to try to find something for this category in the bad, and the video game that I put down there I'm putting it down there with an asterisk behind it, because the asterisk being that this game is not completed. It's not all the way done yet. The concept of this game is amazing and awesome, but until they prove to me they can pull it off and put out a completed product that actually works, I can't get behind it completely. The name of this game is H1Z1. And the premise of this game, it is a post-apocalyptic / zombie apocalypse game that is an MMO, first person or third person type shooter game, survival game. So you are dropped into this world and you then have to survive, and not only are you surviving against other zombies / creatures in this post-apocalyptic world where buildings are run down and there's nothing, there's no infrastructure, but you're also then fighting against the other human players that are there that are trying to get resources. So the concept for this game, I think, is really good. The fact that it's an MMO where you could team up with other people, but yet you don't want to completely team up with them because you might need to stab one of them in the back to get the equipment that you need so that you can survive another day. I like that concept. However, they've had so many problems with this game, whether it's the rate at which supplies can be dropped, and it's supposed to be a free-to-play game, but if you spend X number of dollars, then you can get airdrops of supplies in. And granted, those supplies are open to everybody to go get them, but it's still like there's still that aspect of, well, you can pay extra to get bonuses in the game, and they've had some problems, they've had some publicity issues, they've had some serious glitches in the game. And it's not a big company that's doing this.
This isn't the one that was announced at like the last big electronic thing, is it?
Well, it wasn't announced there. I think they talked about it there. This game's been around for a couple of years now. It's been
Right.
in the works for a while, and they're slowly getting there. But I still see more and more problems coming from it, and it's more whenever you start getting this many people involved in something, and you start getting the MMO world is a hard world to create.
Right.
When you start getting hundreds if not thousands of people playing this game together at the same time, you're
Right.
there's people out there that are way smarter than other people, and you're going to start causing that. You're going to start finding holes and glitches, whether it's in the programming or in the game itself.
Yep.
And so I've got to put it on my worst list, but again, it's with the asterisks of, you know what, we could come back to post-apocalyptic in this Geekfecta thing in a year. Hell, we could come back to it in 6 months, and this game might actually be moved from being bad to outdoing Fallout 3, because the
Nice.
concept is, it's there.
Yep.
They just have to execute it.
Well, I think a MMO zombie thing is a very interesting idea. I
Yeah.
mean, I think it's, because you look at World of Warcraft, you have guilds and stuff. I mean, really, zombie apocalypse, you would form groups,
Yeah.
and you might take out other groups. So,
Right.
I mean, I see it for sure.
Yeah.
And if you're looking at it like, hey, look, we're trying to build our fortress, and we're trying to build a society and stuff, and we have to go on food runs, and we have to go on these type of things, instead of more just I'm leveling into monster killing machine. It's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's more on the, well, we need to go on food runs because if we don't get X number of, resources, whether it's food or whatever,
Right.
that, then we're going to start losing people in your guys, then whether they lose a level, whether they lose some stats, whatever it is, there's got to be that balance. There's got to be that thing of, well, we need to do this in order to keep this going. And I think that's the hard part that they're trying to. That'd be the hard part for any game designer to get their head wrapped around. I mean, you create board games,
Right.
that balancing aspect of, you don't want these guys to get so overpowered that now the game's no fun for them or
Right.
fun for anyone who plays against them yet. So you've got to find that balance, and I think that game is still looking for it.
But and it has to have the fairness. I mean, it shouldn't be. So to some degree, one of the hardest things to balance in an MMO, having played some, is where do you put how much time someone invests versus how much money they want to invest.
Yep.
And for someone who only, I'll play it an hour here, an hour there, versus the person that's playing it 10 hours a day or 5 hours a day or whatever, how do you not just make it so lopsided that when you get on, you're not just overrun and killed right away and you're like, ugh,
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't want to play because Timmy's been on it for 7 hours.
Right. Right. Yep.
And I got a wife and 4 kids, and I maybe get to play it on a Thursday night for an hour.
Exactly. My percentage of time sitting in front of a video game is way less than the 13-year-old kid who doesn't actually go to school.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So
Yep.
let's move on to our meatiest category, probably.
Oh yeah.
The one where we could, as Kip likes to do, honorable mention like 50 different movies.
Oh yeah.
You want to start? Let's start with your best movie this time.
Ooh.
Uh-oh. Still undecided, huh?
I had a hard time picking out
So did I.
my favorite. But what I'm gonna have to go with is I'm gonna have to go with the I'm gonna have to go with the movie that had the biggest impact on my life as far as post-apocalyptic and my train of thought. caused me to flip my head around completely, and really I like trying to jab at people with it, and that's The Matrix. Only the first one. The last two never actually got made. Um, but this idea of the world that we live in had gotten so bad that machines ended up taking over, and the each person is then kept in basically stasis, plugged into a machine that tells you that you're in a world that you're not actually in. And we just lost Bill. He just fell off the earth. Let's see if we can get him back. Did we get you back, Bill? Are you back?
Yeah.
Haha, there we go.
So I heard it. I could hear you, even though I couldn't see anything. I couldn't say anything for a while.
Oh.
I'm going to agree with you on. I mean, I have a different one, but that is the first movie I saw multiple times in a movie theater.
Yep.
Like, I was in college at the time, and we saw it in the main theater, and then I had a different friend that wanted to see it, so I went with him in the main theater, and then we had a dollar theater where I saw it 2 more times.
Yep. Yep. I mean, this is a movie that I bought when it first came out, and then I couldn't stop watching it. I have a crap ton of movies sitting here, and if I could turn my camera around and show you my stack of DVDs, just DVDs, that's not even the VHS, they're in boxes in the basement. I mean, I've got a ton of movies. A lot of the movies that I own that are actually here are actually unopened because I've already seen them and liked them, so I bought them. But I've already seen them, so I never needed to open them again because I could pick up that box, and say, oh yeah, at this point this happens, and this happens, and this happens, and I can run through the entire thing. The Matrix, it didn't seem to matter. I would watch that movie over and over again, and I would pick up new little things each time I watched it, and I still remember arguments that I got into with people after watching that movie of, that could be our life right now. There's no reason that what you are watching on that screen isn't exactly what we're going through, because there would be no way to tell.
Right.
Everything in your world, the only way you know something is there is because electrical impulses in your brain are telling you it's there. That you take away those electrical impulses, who's to say the stuff that the computer I'm typing on, the desk that I'm sitting at, is actually here?
Right. Well, so the other end of that, I had those discussions with friends too, and they, we'd come up with stuff and stuff like deja vu. You ever get that feeling where I've done this before?
Yeah.
Like, that almost lends more credit to it. Like,
yeah,
how would you ever have that feeling?
Yep.
In concrete world, So I hear you, man. And here's the funny part. Like, I am not a Keanu Reeves fan. Not a Keanu Reeves fan at all. What's that?
Me neither. So, I think I have like 2 or 3 movies that I like of his, but most of them are pretty bad.
But I had a class in college, film and literature, where you read a book and you watch the movie and we compared it and all that stuff, right? And we did Much Ado About Nothing, which is a Shakespeare play. And in the movie, one of the characters is played by Keanu Reeves, right? And the professor at the end of the movie goes, so what was the best part about this movie? And everyone's giving out their things. He's like, what's the worst one? Both mine and my friend's hand, like, next to me, instantly go up. And he looks at us because it was faster than anyone else in the class. Like, everyone else was kind of like, I don't know. And he's like, yes. And at unison, we're like, Keanu Reeves. Like, that's how much I hate him, right? Because, everything is, wow. Like, and for Bill and Ted, that's great.
Perfect.
Right? For, I'm trying to be serious guy. That's not good.
Yeah.
But in this, I mean, and he even pokes fun at himself the time where he's like, "Whoa," you're like, "Wow, that's totally Keanu Reeves."
Yep.
But it worked. Like everything about it,
Well,
every character, the guy playing Morpheus, you know,
Lawrence Fishburne.
right, is dead on. Guy playing Mr. Smith. If you can't, I mean, at the start of that where he's like, "Do you, Mr. Anderson?" You're just like,
Yeah.
"Oh my God." What he decided to do with that character, the enunciation, the
Oh yeah.
brilliant.
Or just the scene. I think my favorite scene of that entire movie is when Lawrence Fishburne's been captured and they're up at the top of the federal building.
Mm-hmm.
They're on the top floor, and Mr. Smith takes his headset off and he takes his earwig out and explains to Lawrence Fishburne that humans are a virus.
Yes, yep.
Just and the look on his face, and just even I think at one point he spits on Lawrence Fishburne with his talking, and it's just like you're just like, oh my lord, that is amazing. It's
His all the smell of you.
yeah,
Like you're just like, wow, this dude viscerally hates us.
yeah. I mean, and oh, you felt like you were there, and that scene takes place while you have Keanu Reeves and Trinity, which I wish I could remember the actress's name, because she was amazing too.
Right.
Flipping through in a bullet time, just shootout with a whole bunch of agents, and you're just like, this is awesome.
Right.
Yeah, and it's a great movie, and honestly, I almost have to go with this one for a second reason, and that's because I just listened to a podcast talking about Jupiter Ascending,
Mm-hmm.
which again is by the same people, the Wachowski brothers,
Mm-hmm.
that I was told, I have been told and read many places and in this podcast that it was fucking awful. So, which if you tune into Geek Vice, I believe it's episode 67, maybe 68, Kip talks about how much he didn't like it. So,
yes, he does.
so yeah, it just the dynamics of it. The Wachowski brothers did something amazing with this movie, and they've never been able to recreate it, but it doesn't diminish the fact that this is probably one of the greatest post-apocalyptic movies, even if it takes you a minute to wrap your head around, because you look at this movie and I mean, you could throw it in front of a bunch of people and you'd say, well, that's not post-apocalyptic. You know, for so much of the movie does not take place in the real world, you forget that in reality in that movie,
Right.
they're in they're living in a ship.
Machines are destroying people.
Yeah, it's the machines that have destroyed, basically caused a nuclear fallout to block out the sun.
Right. Because they don't need it.
Because they don't need the sun for anything. I still don't know how they actually power themselves. So that's not well, I guess they power them through
nuclear and stuff.
Humans or whatever however it is,
Right.
But they find the human battery.
Right.
I guess is really the synopsis of it, which
right.
Might be a little far-fetched for some, but I just thought, I mean, I can suspend my disbelief for that if I need to.
Yeah, I thought it was great. So for me, first let me say.
Oh no. Oh no. Bill, come back. Bill, come back. We lost him again. Kip's gonna have to edit a lot in this one. Bill. 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 We'll wait for him to come back. Anyone out there? Anyone out there? Just hang in there. Because I really want to hear what else he's got. Oh, here we go. Hey, there you are.
Yeah, you need to stop drinking. Every time you drink, I get disconnected.
No, it's all gone, so I'll put that up there.
So sorry. Anyway, what I was saying was, for me, this genre, like, if you tell me, hey, we're gonna go see this movie, and I go, oh, what are you gonna see? And then you're like, well, it's this. And I'm like, oh, I've not heard of that. Well, it's a post-apocalyptic. Okay, I'm sold. Like, this is the genre that I love to watch. I think more than almost any other genre, because one, it encompasses so many things.
Mm-hmm.
There's the what happened, how are we dealing with this, how are we interacting with each other, and what's the downfall of society currently. And I looked at tons of different ones. I looked at the original Road Warrior movie, which they're about to make a new Mad Max movie.
Yeah, which I'm looking forward to seeing.
Oh yeah, I looked at Terminator, because in theory, it's not really post-apocalyptic, but it is.
Yeah.
Because in the future, the machines have taken over, and then they came back to try to stop the rebels from getting the person they need to save the future.
Absolutely.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
God, I know some people hate it. Waterworld, I don't mind. It's another post, like, I literally like a post-apocalyptic movies. Okay.
Yeah.
The one that I chose is kind of a more recent one, and probably more on my mind, and that's one of the reasons. And I got to go with Book of Eli. First off, you get Denzel. I mean, you can't go wrong with Denzel Washington. The guy can act he's phenomenal, right? He can do no wrong. And if that wasn't enough, you get Gary Oldman as the bad guy.
Yeah.
And I like Gary Oldman, but as a bad guy, Gary Oldman's phenomenal. Like, it's a step above just getting Gary Oldman. And then to top all that off, you get to stare at Mila Kunis all so, which it doesn't hurt anything, right?
Right.
I mean, anyways, for those that haven't seen it, it's this guy who's wandering kind of through the world, and you don't really know what happened. You just know that there's too much UV coming in. Everyone has to wear sunglasses. The earth is kind of scorched. It's almost desert-like. And he's wandering through everywhere. And he's got a book with him, which turns out to be the Bible. And he's trying to, according to him, at one point, he's being guided by God to where it should go, right? And he's supposed to protect it and get it there. Now, along the way, I mean, he has some sword fights, some gun fights, and he believes that as long as he has this book and he's trying to get it, nothing can harm him. And as you watch this movie, it seems to be pretty dead on. Like, he's doing stuff that's just like, you're like, oh crap, I can't believe he got away, didn't get hit, blah blah blah. Oldman wants it because in his mind, the Bible was something that people rallied around, and the words in there and the teachings in there can kind of move people to what you want them to do. So he's going to use it as like, hey, look, I'm going to start a religion almost as like a cult to gain followers, I mean, it boils down to, at the end, Denzel gets it where it's, well, he doesn't. He actually loses it to Gary Oldman, but he has it memorized, and he recites it so they can write it down. Gary Oldman opens the book, and it turns out it's all Braille, and he can't read it, so he can't use it. And you find out that the whole time Denzel was blind. And you start to think, okay, was he really just that good, or is someone really guiding him? And so at the end of it, you're like, man, he was really badass, but was he really like this samurai, like, God follower? Or, I mean, it was just,
oh man,
it was really good. And along the way, you get some crazy people that, have eaten too many people, and, you get some guys that are out there that are like, oh, it's chaos. We can just rape whoever we want. I mean, it's truly post-apocalyptic, like downfall of society type stuff. I mean, it takes Road Warrior and some other things and kind of mashes them together with great actors. So, I mean, I can't recommend it enough. In my opinion,
I'm gonna have to put that. That is one that I have not seen. It's on my list of things that I want to see, and I think I actually have it on this computer here, but I haven't watched it yet. So I think that's gonna have to get moved at the top of the list.
I can't recommend it more. I really do like it. Like I said, there were so many that I was like, oh, and I could, oh, and I could, oh, and I could. But that was the one that I was like, oh yeah, this is really good.
Well, and before we get into all the honorable mentions that we have, we should talk about our worsts.
Yes.
So, why don't you start us off there, Bill?
So, I have two. One is definitely post-apocalyptic, and one is apocalyptic. Okay?
Okay.
So, I originally wanted to go with the apocalyptic, but then I was like, oh, this isn't post-apocalyptic. This is kind of as it's happening.
Right.
So, I'll get to that one in a second. My post-apocalyptic is a little movie starring Will Smith and Jaden Smith. That would be After Earth. This movie is so bad. And I went into it thinking, this is going to be a Will Smith movie. It is not a Will Smith movie. It is a Jaden Smith movie. And it's the reason babies cry. Like, it is atrocious. Now, I feel bad picking on a little kid, okay? But if you've heard his rap, this movie is as bad as that, okay? His rap is atrocious. This movie is atrocious. And I'm going to say this. My father installed sprinkler systems in buildings, right?
Okay.
For a living. Now, just because he knows how to do that doesn't mean I could go into a building being constructed and attach pipes and make it safe for people to live and work there. Which also is why Will Smith, being an actor, does not translate necessarily to his kid being able to act.
Yeah.
It was a failure on all levels. It was not good. It was his son badly acting, running around in the jungle. I don't know what it was trying to be. It was not good. So that's my definite post-apocalyptic. My one that I wanted to go with, and how bad I made that movie sound, I actually think this one's worse.
Oh, jeez.
It is 2013. This is the end. Okay, Seth Rogen, James Franco, Jonah Hill, bunch of other dudes, and I've listed these off. Think of every movie you've ever seen them in. Now add the end of the world. I mean, that's it. Basically, it's guys act stupid, insert sex joke, insert drug joke, yell at each other.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
I think I laughed maybe once, and it was more of a like, I can't believe they did that.
Yeah.
Like, it went that far. It was literally atrocious, and it's all about how horrible they are, so they don't get brought up in the rapture.
Right.
Like it is. Don't see it. Don't talk about it. Don't even look at the case. Like, it's that bad.
Yeah, I do actually remember. I haven't seen this one, but I remember the buzz of when it came out because it was that bad, and that originally the premise and the trailer for it made you think that this was actually going to be good, and yeah,
nope. And then it's one of those, like, one of my friends had it on DVD, so I was like, I'm not out anything.
Right.
Like, he watched it. He was like, oh, no, there's some funny stuff in it. I don't think I should be friends with him anymore off this. But, it was bad. It was bad.
Yeah, and, since you said that movie shouldn't exist, I'm going to jump back to your After Earth thing. Do you know why that movie was so bad?
Because Jaden Smith acted in it?
Nope. Actually, he had no hope. he had no hope of actually being good in that movie because it was directed by one of the worst directors ever to direct film, and somebody us at Geek Vice love to make fun of, M. Night Shyamalama Ding Dong.
Oh, right?
Yeah.
The guy gets worse as he goes on. Really.
This movie was so far off my radar. When you said After Earth, I had to look it up because I don't think I'd ever heard of this movie before. And then I'm like, oh yeah, this is that M. Night Shyamalan movie that he basically just took the same actors who are in Pursuit of Happiness and just threw them into this movie. Like,
now here's the thing. I like M. Night Shyamalan's early stuff, right?
I like 2 of his movies.
Unbreakable is amazing.
Yeah.
Sixth Sense is really good. Signs is meh.
Yeah.
You know? That, okay? I like Will Smith in almost everything he does.
Independence Day?
I didn't even mind Independence Day.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. I mean, that's not that was a great movie, but it was entertaining.
Right. And he has other things like I mean, Hitch is a great movie. If you have to watch a romantic comedy, it's funny.
Yep.
And then what's Hancock? Oh my God.
I did like that one too.
Stuffs a guy's head up another guy's butt is amazingly funny, right? I like Will Smith. And I was like, you know what? I even saw Jaden Smith in the Karate Kid thing. It wasn't horrible. It had Jackie Chan. It was okay. He wasn't a great actor, but it's a Karate Kid movie. Neither was Ralph Macchio.
Yeah.
So I was like, it's a Will Smith movie. I'll go see it. It's not a fucking Will Smith movie. It's not.
No, it's an M. Night Shyamalan movie. So
with Jaden Smith.
Yeah.
The most privileged kid in the world. Or most entitled. Like, thinks he's the most entitled kid in the world.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway, your worst movies.
So, my worst movie, I had several on my list. Yeah, I have 3 on my list.
Did 2 of them have to do with your best movie?
No, because those, although they should have been, but it's kind of that same thing of they don't really actually exist. I choose to ignore those movies.
There was The Matrix, and then there was some stuff that tried to copy it.
Yeah, I own those movies, but mainly because I wanted the extra stuff that came with buying the box set. But the movie that I had to put in here is it kind of hurts me a little bit because I'm not a huge hater of Kevin Costner. And it's not Waterworld because I've actually watched Waterworld multiple times. This movie I actually turned off when it came on, and that's The Postman. You know, and I'm sure the book was really good, but I'm sorry, the premise of this story that this guy, this nomad, comes across a United States Postal Service, like, mail carrier's uniform thing, and then all of a sudden causes people to come together and restore the United States is bullshit. It's just utter bullshit. It's like, I'm just going to throw stuff at the screen and see if it sticks. Like, I couldn't buy in on it.
Especially when you think about how the downfall of the post office is already happening.
Yeah. I mean, nobody likes the post office now. Hardly anyone uses it. So you can't tell me when the apocalypse does happen and we have to go into this post-apocalyptic world, no one's going to want the postman to come back.
Someone comes up to your little safe haven that you don't know, you're going to just shoot them.
Yeah. No,
like, I don't know who you are.
No, the postman is not, a post officer or postman or the mail deliverer. They are not they should not be held up on a pedestal. Like, I mean, they're great people. I'm sure the people that work in the post office are awesome people. I love the guy who comes and delivers my mail. He's really nice.
But you're not going to rally around the suit.
Yeah, I'm not gonna make him president. Like, I'm not gonna make him king.
So, so, so at the beginning of the movie, he gets into that group, and they give him the branding, and they tell him anyone can challenge for leadership if you're in the group.
Yeah.
Like, they foreshadow that so far in advance. I was like, well, I know how this movie ends. Now, saying all this, saying all that, okay? This movie isn't on my worst list because it's, one, post-apocalyptic, two, Kevin Costner.
Yeah.
At the end of the movie, I kind of went, meh. Like, I didn't feel like I wasted my life, but
Well, I think
I won't watch it again.
Yeah, I think the big problem is that it's directed by Kevin Costner.
Yeah.
So this is directed, produced by, and starred by Kevin Costner. So I think at some point you have to pull yourself out of one of those roles and let somebody else actually step in, because you know, I think that's what actually hurt this movie.
Unless you're Clint Eastwood. If you're Clint Eastwood, you get to do all that.
Yeah, but I mean, he is kind of a special character.
Right. Unless you're Clint Eastwood.
I mean, he's Clint Eastwood. But, you know, you look at movies like Waterworld, not directed by Kevin Costner. He is on the production list. He is listed as produced by.
That just means he put money in.
But yeah, that just means he was loaded and decided to throw some of his money from the good movies that he did, like Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves.
I'll say, so I'm with you. Like, I probably never watch The Postman again. Like, it's never going to be like you know what, I haven't seen in a long time? Or if it's even on, I'd be like, well, is there anything else on?
Yeah.
Waterworld's one of those, like, if it's on, like, TNT or something, and I'm flipping through, I'm like, oh, Waterworld, I haven't seen that in a while. And I'll watch it for a couple reasons. One, I mean, it's kind of ridiculous, the whole boats and driving around at each other and stuff. It's funny that he's this mutant guy that has gills and stuff.
Right.
But if I can catch the one scene where the guy's like, have you ever seen paper? Like, that cracks me up every time. Yeah. I love that dude.
Yeah. I gotta agree with you. I mean, I can't put it on my worst, but I can't put it on my best.
Right.
It's just one of those movies, and I will flip it on every once in a while to watch. So, you know, we've already started with Waterworld as one of our honorable mentions.
Right.
So we could go through some of our other honorable mentions. But before we do that, since you did two for your bad, I've got to throw out one more, and it's more, and it's much like my bad for the video games. The concept of this TV show had a lot of good things going for it, and then they just decided to throw some MacGuffins in there and ruin the whole thing. And that is a TV show that's fairly new called Revolution.
Oh, yes.
Premise of this TV show is electricity is turned off. You know, it's gone. Now you have to survive in a world with no electricity, where we've been so dependent. All your money is gone because all your bank records and everything are kept electronically, so everyone is back to square one with nothing, and you all have to build yourselves back up. So that means manufacturing's down, mass production's down, there's no cars, there's no tanks, there's no
planes, nothing.
No planes, nothing to do that. And so it's how does the world survive and move forward from there. This was good. It's a good idea. And
started out good.
And what?
Started out good. The first few episodes.
Yeah, first few episodes were really good. Then all of a sudden there became this magical pendant or crystal that could basically emanate a Wi-Fi electric signal, like a Tesla type electricity, which I'm okay with. I like that concept. I'm okay with that because that existed long before electricity existed. Tesla had this stuff there.
Right.
He just didn't have the funding to create it.
Right.
So I'm okay with that on a small scale. Then all of a sudden they start introducing this machine. They create a machine where you can plug this pendant in it and it broadcasts it.
Amplifies.
Yeah, even farther. Now it's enough to turn on fleets of helicopters and
Right.
run tanks while this generator is flying overhead in the helicopter. Now your tanks have power and can run. It's like, okay, now we just jumped the shark.
Right.
They could have gone and kept that show going with just this idea of we're fighting for these pendants
Right.
just to get little things going, just to get lights on at night, or just to get enough to maybe run
some medical equipment.
Yeah, some medical equipment, or like, guns were a big thing in this TV show, and if you had guns, then you had a lot of power because bullets were scarce because there's no way to produce those. So if that amulet could do enough to help you press bullets to run your to run assault rifles rather than muskets, I could buy into that. I could suspend my disbelief to help to go that far. But to run planes and helicopters and tanks, I actually stopped watching the TV show.
Well, and here's my biggest problem with this, right? So I watched it. My daughter loved it. I was like, yeah, this is pretty good, This is enough years after the blackout happened that places have set up villages with farms and So I mean, you're talking at least
years, yeah,
5 to maybe 10 at the most,
right?
Because the kids were alive when it happened, but they were young.
True. Yeah.
They're like 6 or 7, and now they're, teenage, adult, 18.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say yeah, probably 10 to 12 years at the
max. And in
max.
that 10 to 12 years, none of this shit surfaced.
Yeah.
Like, they had it the whole time.
Right.
Because they created it before this happened. Secondly, within those 10 years, no one got a steam tank going again. Like an engine for, like, train. There's train tracks all throughout the United States.
Yep.
And you're telling me no one got steam engines going?
Yeah.
No one almost went, because we're far enough along in our technology that if something were to happen, there's a lot of steam stuff we could create.
Oh, sure.
And make work, because we have the understanding to do it.
Well, and it's not like libraries were non-existent. I mean, they ran across some of them in some of the episodes. It's like, you just go grab a book and look. Oh, here's how a steam engine works. Yeah, I think we can make something like that.
The other thing is,
you've got people that are smart enough to program, like to do computer programmers.
Right.
Like, they're not smart enough to come up with how a steam engine works. I think I'm smart enough to do that.
The other side of it is, if we believe that it was a huge EMP thing that killed everything, right? Unless that EMP is continually going,
right,
you would be able to create chemical reactions that produce electricity.
Right.
Or let's put it this way. You could create something that you turn that would generate some electricity to use some of your electrical things. I'm not talking you could move cars someplace or whatever.
Right.
But you'd be able to create some sort of... there are people that built generators for a living.
Yeah.
They could build a generator of some sort, or, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do something.
Whether it's the hand crank, that just you gotta crank it up and it creates enough electricity to run for a couple minutes, and then you gotta crank it up again. Yeah, it's just something.
Right. Well, and let's look at a car, right? Yeah, it would take a little bit to start it and stuff, and you'd have to figure out how to get a battery going a little. But your alternator charges your battery. Right?
Yep.
And so if you could somehow create the combustion to get things moving,
Yeah.
and you had something that you could use as a battery of such.
Right.
I mean, look, you talked about libraries. There's a book in that library on how to make a light with potatoes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And you have light bulbs. Light bulbs would not be destroyed by EMP like just light bulbs in a store.
Exactly. Exactly.
Let's create a clock and a light bulb out of our potato.
Yeah.
There's some things that are kind of ridiculous to me.
Well, and that was the big problem is you can suspend your disbelief on a couple things.
Right.
But when they start asking you, when you start asking the question why, they gotta be able to have an answer for you, and they gotta have an answer that they can just give you within the show, in the process of telling the story within the movie or the TV show. They've got to give you an answer for that, and if they can't,
I stopped watching it, so I don't know if they ever came around to some of these answers.
I watched all the way. I watched all the way up to the point where they actually lifted off helicopters, and then I'm like, "Yep."
Well, and then they died, but then they put it up on Netflix with some episodes I guess I had never seen, and I just couldn't motivate myself to go watch it.
Yeah, no, I watched all the. I think that was the first 2 seasons.
Right.
The first season and a half. I think it might have, and it's been canceled now. It's done.
Right.
Like,
if you had something that was doing constant EMP, right?
Yeah.
So everything's continually shut off, then your little pendant things wouldn't work. And if it's not constant, we could come up with something. There are smart enough people out there to figure out how to power things.
Yep.
At least on a small scale.
Completely agree.
There are books out there on what Edison did, right? I mean, he did it before anyone else did.
Well,
back with no technology and no tools to do it.
Well, and here's the kicker. The people who have the pendants apparently are the people who are smart enough to create this before this stuff went off. So, you telling me they're not smart enough? Like, why aren't they the ones running it?
Well, I got the gist that they actually created this problem.
Yeah, but still, like, then why aren't they the ones running the show? If you're going to create that problem, then you fix it. You have all the power. Take over the world. That's, I mean, if you think you're that much smarter than everybody else, then show it. Why are you just hiding in a rundown house or in a lighthouse?
See, I don't think you got far enough. There was like whole buildings with people that were like that, and I don't know.
They were that smart?
Yeah.
Oh man, I must not.
Again, I must. Like I said, it went in. Well, we might have created this problem, type thing. So I mean,
yeah.
I don't know. Like I said though, either you have a constant EMP or you don't. At which point, someone's smart enough to start where Edison started and going.
Sure.
You know, Tesla didn't have something he could plug into a wall.
Right.
You know, there's no outlet generating power.
Yeah.
He came up with experiments that, oh, look, I can create the.
Yeah.
So, look back, read how he did it, and start over. So, anyway, some honorable mentions for best movies and stuff. I am going to throw out Terminator because The Rise of the Machines. Now, the funniest part is, what was it, 2010? Is that when they were supposed to take over?
Yeah.
Came and went, and no Skynet. However, the other day I was driving, and there was a van for some internet service that named themselves Skynet. I was like, wait, what? That wasn't supposed to take over, or that was supposed to take over 2010. Are they just behind? What's going on?
They're just running behind a little bit.
Right. I was like, man, name yourself Skynet. I don't want to help you.
Yeah,
so that's my first honorable mention. My second one has to be Road Warrior. The Mad Max stuff is just good. You know, Road Warrior, Mad Max, Beyond Thunderdome, all that stuff. I like all of them. They were my first kind of like, oh my God, what's this? This isn't like in our world. You know,
Yeah.
so I really liked it. My last honorable mention, and it's a newer movie, is Dredd. The newer Judge Dredd movie.
Oh, okay.
That was well done. I loved the building's on lockdown and they're gonna go in and kill him, and it was a good movie. And it's the way Judge Dredd should have been the first time.
Right.
So
I haven't seen that one. I'll have to check that one out.
which also could have been the comic. We could have put that in one of the better comic books too. Anyway, you got some honorable mentions?
I've got two that I want to throw out there, and first one I'll throw out there is Battlestar Galactica. I did not see the original series, but I did see the newer one, the remake of it, and I really loved it. I thought it was an incredible show. Like, I thought the way they handled everything was really good. I liked the acting in it. I kind of wish I would have seen the original one because I loved to compare them. Not as good, huh?
At the time, I mean.
Well, that's what I mean. I kind of wish I would have been able to see that when it came out. Because I think it could have had the same impact on people then as this one did for the younger generation. But it's really good. Very post-apocalyptic, but kind of in that sense of it doesn't take place on Earth or any really planet, so they've already kind of run off, and that's how bad the planet had gotten.
Right.
But the other one that I wanted to throw out there was another TV show. Took place back in early 2000s. Only ran for 2 seasons. Starred Jessica Alba. It is called Dark Angel.
Yep.
I really liked this TV show. It kind of went with the premise that they were genetically engineered super soldiers, and that was Jessica Alba. So
They had the barcode.
Yep. I really kind of like that. It was created by James Cameron, who has made a lot of other good things.
Yep.
So I really like that one. It might be a little bit of a stretch for post-apocalyptic. They don't really talk about what caused the world to end up like it was, but there pretty much had to be some sort of catastrophe to give the scenario and the situations that they were all in.
Yep.
So those are my two mentions.
That's awesome. Well, if you don't have any more,
I'm out.
I don't have any more. That is about it for us tonight. Next time on Geekfecta, we will make all your dreams come true, or call social services for all the abandoned kids, because our topic is. So take care.
See ya.